All right, folks, welcome back to Talkin Badgers. Tonight it's just going to be me and my boy Coop holding it down, repping Token Creek, Wisconsin. We got a lot to get into tonight as Wisconsin is set to wrap up the regular season. We got to talk about the Minnesota game, what we saw there. How serious or how concerned are we about Max Klesmit's injury? We got Senior Day coming up. We got a few people worth remembering. That's for damn sure. And then a couple questions about the tournament around the corner. What this team's ceiling is, what we need to see for this team or this year to be a success. And we're going to close the show with the Big DAWG of the Week.
Super excited for a Big DAWG of the Week.
Yeah, you and me both. I'm truly excited to be able to shed a little bit of love on that one. So last night, Wisconsin, goes into the barn, basically where Wisconsin has made a living. It's now been 1,856 days since Minnesota has beaten Wisconsin in a basketball.
Hey, we are here mucking barn, dude. That's what we do.
Yeah, obviously Badger fans pretty much took over last night. That was apparent.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I saw Sam Decker today posted something saying it always felt like playing a home game there. And it's just things you love to see. Obviously, Wisconsin has been built on the back of the recruits that Minnesota wasn't good enough to get. And so it's just, you love to see it. Obviously, every time you beat Minnesota in anything, it means a little something extra. And especially when we've fallen a little bit short on the football side of things.
Yeah.
Nice to see the healthier of the two programs get done.
I had a thought, and we need a trophy for the basketball game, right?
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
There's got to be a border battle trophy. So we need something.
Yeah, that's worth giving some real thought to. I love that idea. Even if we got to speak it into existence.
Yeah. And just in college basketball in general, why is there no trophy games like football? I mean, there might be, I guess, but I just don't know about them. But I need more trophy games in my life.
Yeah,
when it's the Egg Bowl, it's I don't care about either of these teams, but it's the fucking Egg Bowl. Or the game, Michigan, Ohio State, it means something. The Heartland Trophy, it means something.
Especially when you've got, the Big Ten expanding the way that it has. It adds a little bit of something to the programs that were there from the start. So, Coop, you got any big takeaways coming out of last night's win over Minnesota?
Happy to get the win on the road in the Big Ten. I don't care who you play. Always tough. Biggest takeaways. Fuck, we're not shooting great, man. And that's tough. That's part of the offense. You got to live with it. Live by the three, die by the three, as they say. I felt like more in the second half, and especially towards the end of the game, the fellas were attacking the bucket a little more, which I'd love to see. One of the biggest things I had written down, and we all knew this guy was a physical player, dog, but John Blackwell, man, this dude is turning it on right now. And just the physicality he played with, we needed that, especially with Tonje in foul trouble. They needed John Blackwell to play like that, and he stepped up in a big way. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is, we didn't shoot great, and we still won. I get Minnesota's not a great team, but I think our defense, when it comes to the Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, hopefully we don't shoot as bad as we have the last two games, but I think our defense this year can keep us in some games, and we just need to be a little more consistent. I think attacking the basket, dribble, and drive, which I think will help when and if Max Klesmit comes back. But get to the charity stripe, man. If 3-point shots aren't falling down. So, but yeah, I think my biggest takeaway might be our defense. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Minnesota played really good defense last night. No credit to them. Ben Johnson's had them playing much better as of late, and I think that Wisconsin was uncomfortable early. I think that was pretty clear.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember exactly. They had 8-9 turnovers in the first half, only 2 in the second half.
Yeah, that's another thing too. We need to stop turning the fucking ball over.
Yeah, you love to see them make that adjustment though, because obviously the first half that was pretty rough, but they ended up getting to the charity stripe 24 times, connected on 21. This team, they're on pace to be the best free throw shooting team in NCAA history. That's incredible.
That's what we have to do when shots aren't falling down.
Absolutely.
I think against Michigan State, we didn't do that enough.
Yeah, I would agree.
I get it. Their defense is better, but
in general, I don't have a big issue with a lot of the shots that they've taken. I think that they've generated a lot of looks and they're just not falling right now.
We're just missing shots. It happens. It's basketball.
But yeah, I do want to see them continue to be aggressive, get the ball down low. I thought Steven Crowl is somebody the last couple of games who, when the shots aren't falling, like generate some post touches, play inside out. I feel like that's an area where they're too comfortable getting away from at times.
Yeah. My notes, I had Big Steve bringing the boogie. His footwork was incredible last night. I thought he played well, and I'm with you. I think we get away from him too quick sometimes.
Yeah, it's like they make a concerted effort early in games to get the ball down to him. And
yeah,
it's fared pretty well.
But I get it because he's always got that one or two plays a game where you're like, why the fuck are you on the court right now?
Yeah, he's
a great player.
Every so often. Yeah, Steve is a guy who I feel like is greatly underappreciated by the fan base. I'm not saying he's a spectacular player, but he's been a rock solid center in the Big Ten, for years.
Yeah.
But
I think my biggest thing is just like the lack of amount of times him and Winter dunk when they probably could drives me up a fucking wall.
I think the Winter dunks are coming, man. I couldn't be higher on that kid's ceiling long term. He's taken a giant leap this year.
He's awesome. Pay the man.
I thought John Tonje I'm not just last night. I mean, the stat line, the box score, all that looks fine. From Tonje scores 18.7 boards. On an efficient night, but I do feel like he's been forcing the issue a little bit.
I agree. And my dad and I talked about that.
I feel like teams are learning how to defend him a little better, make him uncomfortable, and ultimately, you are the go-to guy. Like you're gonna get forced into some of those situations, and he hits plenty of difficult looks. I think that Wisconsin's got to do a little bit more to help him out, and part of that will come, and we'll touch on it here in a moment. Is the return of Max. I mean, there's layers to why the Max Klesmit absence has been, really hard on this team. Obviously, Max has been a terrific playmaker for the Badgers. He does so many things. Like, obviously, he can space the floor, but I think he's just been really underappreciated as a playmaker, given some of the struggles he's had. Yeah, he brings so many things to this offense that opens up for everyone else. One guy I do want to bring up that he's had a rough 2 games. I thought he did some things well last night. My guy Kamari McGee has not exactly thrived in his last 2 starts. I do want to give him a little credit last night. 5 assists, no turnovers. That absolutely matters. It feels like there's been a little bit of a pressure on him to maybe generate.
He's a bench guy. It's different. It's different starting the game than coming off the bench. And he's a bench guy, spark plug guy. That's his role. And he's awesome at it. And asking him to do what we had the last 2 games, I'm not surprised he's struggled. Obviously, we're hoping for more. But I think if Max gets back healthy and he settles back into his role, he'll be fine. I'm not worried about let me tell you, brother, last guy I'm worried about on the team was Kamari McGee. That dude's a dog.
100%. Kamari is just one of those guys who's kind of unflappable. And, another guy who is kind of proven to be that way is our boy, Jack Janicki. What a fucking game from Jack Janicki last night. I remember during preseason practice sitting next to my guy, Kedrick, and we're watching practice, and I kind of look at him, and I'm like, he absolutely is one of the better players on this team, like in terms of guys who should be in the rotation. And at the time, that was when the rotation was far from settled. And we're like, I don't know where he slots in, but there's got to be some minutes for this guy. And as the season's gone on, he's just continued to be ready when his number is called.
Yes.
And, walk on or not, it doesn't really matter. For a young player like that, getting his first season of real exposure in the Big Ten, nonetheless, the stage has not been, too much for him at all. He is a player. Jack Janicki is a player.
I mean, he made probably 5 or 6 non-stat sheet plays that won us the game yesterday.
Right. There were offensive boards that came as a result of his hustle. How many assists that ended up like that other people weren't able to finish. He's really underrated court vision. I think he's a really good passer.
Very underrated, getting to the fucking bucket too. He can slash a little bit for a white boy.
He can.
I love it. And then the fact that he lost a tooth and John Blackwell had to point out to him that he lost a tooth. Give me 10 of those guys.
That had to bring a tear to old Joe Krabenhoff's eye, huh?
Good.
From the same cloth, as it turns out.
Did you see that picture I posted in the Badger Notes group chat?
Of course it did.
Kendrick having that smile at the Super Bowl. Say Drake. So that's how Joe Krabenhoff was looking at Greg Gard when Jack Janicki didn't give a fuck about losing his tooth. He's like, I fucking told you, Greg.
I know Wisconsin found a way to win ugly last night, and that matters. Like I think that is
win like that. Yeah,
it's really important. But I think that Wisconsin might not have won that game if it wasn't for Janicki's efforts. I think he showed up when things were getting really stagnant for us down the stretch there, and hit a couple of buckets. And
dude, he can shoot that bitch. Whew.
Kirk Penny told me before the season that he is the best shooter on this roster.
And he probably is.
He might be if he had the minutes and the volume to follow.
Dude. Yeah, I love him. Just a couple other things I had quick while we're talking about the Minnesota game. The high-low between Crowl and Winter, I loved. We were in a couple of those actions. I think we ran like 2 or 3 in the first half, maybe only 1 in the second half. But I really love that, just emphasizing Crowell's passing. I mean, the guy's incredible. Like, as a passing big man, he's one of the best in the country. I feel like it's super underrated. If you're not a Badgers fan, like, you would have no idea our 7-footer can sling it like that. And the other thing I had was the opening sequence of the game. And this happened twice in the game. Nolan Winter's body just forgot how to basketball.
Yeah.
For about 8 seconds. For about 8 seconds last night, and I was fucking screaming at my TV. And the opening sequence, when like his body just gave out on him, like brain to body shut off. So we turn it over, and then Minnesota comes down and hits that 3. I was like, you got to be like, here we go. This gonna be a long night, boys. Like, if that's how we're starting this fucking game. And then when he did it in the second half, I was like, oh, my God, Nolan. Like, obviously, he didn't mean to. He made a mistake. And if you've played basketball, we've all been there when you're caught in midair and you don't know what the fuck to do. But, yeah, like, just watching it on TV, I was like, man, we're paying this guy I don't know how much, and his full body just went limp midair. And we turned the ball over to start the game.
Yeah, those were a couple tough moments there for them for sure.
You know what? Growing pains. I still love Nolan. He's an awesome player.
So before we fully turn the page, we had a question, we had a question asked from a Badger Notes listener or a subscriber that asked, with Klesmit's injury kind of looming large headed into the postseason, should we as Badger fans be concerned?
Yes. If he doesn't come back healthy. To me, if it was a tournament game last night, he's playing. Because by everything I've read, and I'm sure you've read too, he's going to play on senior night against Penn State. And now who knows? Is that a minute or is that his full workload? We'll see how that goes. But like, I'm trying to talk myself into not being worried about Max Klesmit at all, and he's going to come back and we're going to be fine. But if this is a nagging injury and he's not himself, it's not great. I mean, I think we have guys who are going to step up, like Janicki. I mean, John Blackwell, like we talked about, just is really coming to his own last few games. Tonje's going to have to be Tonje. But just with Max on the court, his ability to drive to the basket, and his court vision, I feel like, is super under. We talked about that earlier, but like his court vision is super underrated. He's really good, dribble and dish kind of guy, and plays good enough defense. And he's the one guy on our team. I shouldn't say Tonje probably would fit into this category, but remember that game against Indiana last year when he scored like 20 points in a row? It felt like, like you never know when that could happen with Max, and having a guy like that fully healthy. on your roster, either in the Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, he's got that microwave ability, and I'm actually shocked that we've gone this far into the season not having that game, because it feels like every year.
I feel like he's taking a back seat to Blackwell.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Like, and it makes you wonder a little bit too. Like, this is an injury that Max has dealt with all season long, and like even during preseason practices, during some drills, he would have to be on the bike, while everyone else was doing them, and he'd come back out, and like that was just before the year started. So like, I don't think we've ever truly had Max at full health, but he's still found a lot of impactful ways to, affect this team, even though his shooting is career lows. Like, this is not who he is.
No,
he is his career whatsoever.
He a dog though.
For sure. And so I guess to answer the question, should we be concerned? If the injury lingers and he's unable to play or is a shell of himself, I think we should be concerned. The reason being, yes, this team has good depth, but we don't have a lot of guard depth. If we have to shift Kamari McGee into the starting lineup, like, I think we all know the value he brings in that role. And Janicki is capable of playing a bigger role. That is clear. But as we saw last night, in the brief time he was on the floor, Cam Hunter was that next man up in the guard rotation.
He ain't got it, brother. And I was so excited about him, like, before the season started. Mm-hmm. But I think that injury from, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? Like, he ain't got it. He can't move like he wants to move. It's not his fault.
He's not an option. Not in a meaningful game, and I think that's pretty clear. Obviously, a few minutes against Minnesota, and that wasn't there. So I do have concerns, because I think then suddenly you are asking an awful lot of Blackwell, of Tonje, of McGee. I mean, Kamari 2 games ago played 35 minutes,
and that's just not.
At this point in the season, I think part of what's kept this team so good is the ability to manage minutes, because you didn't have significant drop off when you win. And so I think Max's spacing does so much for everybody in this offense. Like, I think some of these offensive struggles are a direct correlation to him being missing, not because 100%. He's been 100% shooter, but I think he brings so many different layers to this team, to the depth of the rotation. I think that absolutely it's a concern if he's not back, but
if he's out there, that defender cannot leave the 3-point line with Max Klesmit out there. And that opens up Tonje, our bigs, it opens up everybody for more 3-point attempts. Like,
absolutely it does. I don't want to say it doesn't matter if he's not connecting from 3, but he's still affecting the way that defense has to play him, and everyone else is. It's got a trickle down effect. So I do expect to see him on senior day. I think he'll be back in the lineup, kind of ramping up for the Big Ten tournament and beyond. But I'd be concerned if it lingers.
I have a question. Say Max is, healthy, good to go for the tournament. Over under 5 minutes a game for Xavier Amos.
That's the number.
Right? I thought about that last night. I was like, man, can we trust this guy come tournament time? He can't play a lick of defense. He's gotten better. He's gotten better.
He's got his moments, but most of them, I think, come from just his athletic tools more than like him being an actually good defender.
And god damn, he loves to shoot it.
Yeah, he loves to shoot that shit. He does, and I want to give him credit too, because the Xavier Amos that we saw in November, December.
Oh, he's
one that we see now.
He's way better.
He's developed a lot.
But I feel like a valid point is like, can we trust this guy?
Yeah,
for
right.
5 minutes in a tournament game.
I think I would take the under in a close game. I think you still sneak a few minutes. Like, I think that what you could get in those 4 minutes far outweighs what you could lose with him playing those 4 minutes.
Yeah,
that you gotta those couple of minutes to give your bigs some impactful rest, I think, matter. So you got to play him, but I don't think you play him more than that. And
I'd say, to me, I'd rather just increase Carter Gilmore and fucking Janicki's minutes.
And that might be the answer, quite honestly. Like, we'll have to see.
And as we're moving on, we said that probably 10 minutes ago. Carter Gilmore, man. A year ago today, I'm sure trashing this guy because watching him play basketball just drove me up a fucking wall. this year, the amount of like respect, the apology I owe to Carter Gilmore, which I taken years to give. I mean, this dude, and I don't know what happened. He's always been a hustle guy, you know. I'll never deny his like work ethic, hustle. You can't teach that shit. But he put on a little weight this year. I said that at our first episode of basketball season. Him and Kumar Gee looked a little more jacked. But what he's brought to the table this year is invaluable. Like when he gets in foul trouble, it's like, oh, this could be bad, dude.
Absolutely, because
really good defender this year.
I think he's the best defender potentially on the entire
team.
I think he gives Wisconsin the ability to start two bigs the way they do, because then you can stagger their minutes. Because 100%. You know that he allows you to offset the other perfectly. I think he's what makes this work. You know this. I've always loved Carter Gilmore, and part of that is over the years, I think I've changed the way that I view a lot of players, and I've tried to make that be more of a appreciate them for what they are instead of what they aren't kind of thing. And so I just appreciated the impact that he could make defensively and the hustle. And I just thought anything you got from him on offense was a plus, which there was not obviously a lot.
Yeah.
But now that he's brought that offensive threat and he's taken his game to a whole nother level, like he's been so valuable to this team and as a leader. And, you know, this plays well into the next segment here. So I'm just going to kind of let it run over. Somebody who absolutely is going to blow the roof off of the Kohl Center during senior day when he is announced, and rightfully so.
Yes.
You know, there's one game left on the schedule. It's going to be senior day, Saturday at the Kohl Center against Penn State. And this is going to be a really fun, I think, and memorable group of seniors that are going.
I'm going to cry, dude. I can already tell you I'm going to cry.
You know, I think there's quite a few reasons why, really. You know, you've got some real program guys in Steven Crowl, in Carter Gilmore, to a lesser extent. You know, not even to a lesser extent. Marcus Ilver has stuck it out every year.
Say what you want about the guy, but
he has consistently been a break in case of emergency forward off the bench. But there's been a lot of opportunities for him to leave, and he has stayed and just worked his ass off. Greg Gardner been very complimentary about the effort that he's put in at practice. You know, referred to him once as an encyclopedia, a Rolodex of knowledge when it comes to the plays.
I love that.
Yeah. So you got 3 program guys who have come in and spent their entire careers here. You also have 2 in-state kids who transferred in and spent and played for 3 years. You know, if you think about a traditional Wisconsin team of years past, like a 3-year contributor is what you were hoping for.
Yeah.
Everybody. And you've got 2 in-state kids on top of that who transferred in, you know, were meaningful. And then you got John Tonje, who, I think there are a lot of people who worry about, like, can you be emotionally invested in teams and players during the transfer portal era and the one and done? And maybe it's easy to say with the benefit of hindsight because he's clearly first team all Big Ten. But John Tonje deserves a hell of a reception. He was the pickup of the entire offseason, arguably, in college basketball, especially if you want to look at money dished out. Greg Gardner's playing fucking money ball, and John Tonje, Scott Hatterberg this year.
Good. And like, I was talking to a guy at work about this, and we were like teeter-tottering. Is John Tonje a Badger legend?
I mean, I don't think you can say no, and the reason
that's what I said. I mean, he had that 40-point game against Arizona.
I mean, you have to look at it under the lens of, okay, like what constitutes being a legend? Let's talk about Johnny Davis for a second. He stayed 2 years. His first year, he was an impactful. He's like a 6th man off the bench, you know, averaged 6-7 points a game. Year 2, he averages over 19, wins Big Ten Player of the Year. All the other things, goes to the NBA. John Tonje statistically is putting up a very comparable season, you know, probably without looking on better efficiency. I mean, he's in line right now to finish the season as one of 4 Badgers in the last like 30 years to finish scoring 19 points a game.
Yeah.
Along with Mike Finley, Johnny Davis, and Devin Harris. Good company.
Honestly, shocked me Frank wasn't on that list. But then I remembered how great those teams were. Where it's like, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, Yeah, I think absolutely John Tonje is going to be remembered that way for a
Me
really
too.
long time.
And
He's kind of the poster boy for this transfer era and why we should be able to maybe embrace some of these guys.
I think to me the biggest difference between him and Johnny Davis is, oh yeah, Davis was awesome. Those teams they didn't suck, but they weren't great. Like, they didn't give you hope. Like, this team gives me hope. And just the buy-in and the energy I've had for this team all season has been it's been different than the past few years. It has. Like, I love this fucking team, dude.
I
can't get enough of it, man.
I love this team, and I think that it comes down to, like, you have to give so much credit to, obviously you and I are very pro Greg Gard people, but I'm gonna kind of shout it for
the whole staff.
Prior to coming on, he was just put up for the Jim Phelan National Coach of the Year award again.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I just think that there are so many reasons why he and the entire staff deserve credit. I mean, it's the restructuring of things top to bottom. The way that his entire coaching staff, bringing in Greg Steensma to strictly follow or focus on development and the kind of game day preparation. Kirk Penny to be an offensive coordinator, obviously that's meant a whole lot. Being willing to adapt and do all these different things to change towards a pro model, it just has meant everything. And more than that, they have valued fit throughout this whole thing, and they clearly found the right guys, because in an era like this, he still found a way to return a ton of production, return a lot of core pieces, supplement that with guys from the portal. John Tonje came in, bought all the way in, and you can see even just in the way he's grown as a defender.
100%. 100%.
That's the difference. And again, I'm not trying to shit on AJ Storr, but like, that's the difference between those two. Is John Tonje is also a bucket, but he took to the hard coaching and he responded and he wanted to be better. And the team is so much better as a result. I mean, defensively in KenPom, since about the 12, 13 game mark of the season, they were sitting outside the top 60 in defense.
Now we're in the top 30, aren't we?
We're sitting just outside right now. Like, there are 8 teams in the country that technically meet the, historically the KenPom qualifiers to be a national champion. And but I just think that speaks to the growth of this group on the defensive side. They have come together and made that a big part of their identity to complement the offense. And I think it takes a group that is bought in, and they are clearly bought into the staff and what they're doing.
Our program went from archaic to analytical, I feel like.
It absolutely did.
And look at the results. Like, Greg Gard knew like something had to change, and he knew it. And I agree with the people. And it was funny. I was in Michigan last week for like a work training program. It was actually pretty dope. The CEO came and talked to us of my company. I work for a massive public company, fucking huge. But anywho, he came and talked to us, and oh god damn it! Now I lost my train of thought. Where was I going?
You'll find it.
I don't know.
You'll find it.
I will. I lost my train of thought.
But Greg Gard he CEO'd this thing in a way that was really meaningful, and you love to see it all the way around. This season has been really fun to watch from a distance. Absolutely.
Now I remember. The CEO, he was, giving his little speech and everything. And and I try to live my life like this too, with like people I surround myself with, especially at work. Like, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room or the only ideas guy in the room. Like, you need to hire awesome people. You need to hire smart people. And that's what Greg Gard did. Like, we spent money and we hired, like, okay, Kirk Penny, run the offense, change my offense. Or like you said, Steensma, like player development, like just being willing to like not take full control, like, and be dominant, deferring to other people, other talent, like high-end talent guys who are going to be leaders. That's what you need out of your head basketball coach, which is basically a CEO.
Yeah.
Any head coach. But it's don't be the smartest guy in the room. Be the best at being a head coach, delegating things, listening to people. So I know I lost my train of thought there for a second, but that was it.
No, and I think it helps too that he was able to do that while getting qualified candidates with ties to the program who care about the program. So they were qualified for the job they were doing, and they're people he can trust, which allows you, to be able to take your hands off a little bit. And I think that he has, been able to reap some of the rewards of that. And you just have to love the direction that the program's headed right now.
It's awesome.
So that brings us to one of our last segments here. Just with the Big Ten and NCAA tournament right around the corner, one of the readers asked, "What do you think this team's ceiling is in the Big Dance?" Coop, I want to throw that one over to you first.
Well, the ceiling is the roof, brother. Let me tell you that. I think, and maybe I'm talking out my neck, I think Elite Eights are ceiling. Final Four, obviously Final Four would be fucking awesome. But I think the ceiling of this team, if we shoot well, I think we're playing good enough defense, get to the free throw line, we can beat anybody, I think. But to me, the ceiling, we'll just say Elite Eight because the tournament's a tournament. Not advancing past the first round would really, really hurt. It hurt 10 times more than last year.
So let me ask you the second part of that question then, just to piggyback off of that. What do you need, or what do you think they need to do for this season to be considered a success?
Now, you know me. I've always been making the tournament. I'll take that. You make the tournament, that's my expectation. I think for this season to be a success, we get past the first weekend. Because I think that's how good this team is. And, if we don't, then I'm going to be pissed. But unfortunately, then we don't. But I think for this season to be a success with how talented our team is, and who we've beat, too. We've beaten some great teams this year. I know we lost to Michigan State, but we beat Purdue at Mackey. Beat Arizona. Like, the Big Ten's tough, man, no matter who you play, I feel like. But
yeah, we were picked to finish 12th, and we're currently ranked 12th.
Yeah.
And that we're...
Yeah. So, to me, a success is the second weekend, Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think you and I are...
ceiling's Elite Eight.
I think we're in lockstep. For me, the ceiling of this team in the tournament would be the Elite Eight, and I think that label is very arbitrary because obviously it's incredibly matchup based, and it's a matter of who you match up with and when. But I think they absolutely have the talent if everything was equal to go to the Elite Eight. I'm with you. I think they're playing good enough defense, and that's inspired a lot of confidence in me that if they have a healthy Max Klesmit and they have their regular rotation and, we're looking at the team that we've played the bulk of the season with. I think that they are absolutely capable of that. I'm going to hedge here with my, what do they need to do for this season to be considered a success? I think they got to make a Sweet 16 for the outside. I will just say the vocal faction of the fan base to also feel like this season was a success. And I think that I would.
So Ryan,
I would be really pleased with that outcome too. However, and this, I know that this isn't always going to be one of my more popular takes, but I already view this season as success for a few reasons. One, I think it's been the fact that they've kind of hit reset on the way that this program operates.
Mm-hmm.
And they prove that they can win playing this style of basketball with less resources. This just all feels very sustainable to me.
Well, I love how you mentioned Moneyball earlier. I feel like that's a great way to kind of encapsulate how Greg Gard's running the organization.
Yeah, I feel like they know exactly what they want. To run an effective offense, and that absolutely matters. Yes, it helps a ton when you hit on a John Tonje, but John Tonje, so you deserve credit for that. And you were able to do it within the confines of the resources that you had available, and so that matters to me. So in a lot of ways, I'm already going to view it as a success. We have a large sample size of basketball that shows that they were able to construct a really strong roster. This is one of the deepest groups we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Over the course of the season, they, outkicked their coverage. They far exceeded expectations. This is a team that like in the preseason, by a lot of people, they were kind of on the outside looking in terms of like whether or not they were being viewed as an NCAA tournament team. So I'm going to view it as a success because at the end of the last March, there were a lot of people who were up in arms that Greg Gard was not fired. There were a lot of people who were ready to hit reset. And if you look at where we are standing today, the state of the program, the direction of the program, I think that there is so many reasons to be optimistic about that. I think we are incredibly lucky he is our head coach. I've thought that for a long time. But because of all of those reasons, like how quickly the narrative on Wisconsin men's basketball has been rewritten by the guy who a lot of people wanted fired.
Yeah, I want to go on.
I already think it's been a success. But, man, it would be the cherry on top to go to the Sweet 16 at the very least.
And I mean, I agree with your take as it being a success. It's just gonna hurt me so much if we like lose in the first round or something like that.
Fucking devastated,
like, dude. I'm gonna like throw me off a bridge, dude. I don't know.
I'm gonna be in a dark place.
Yeah, the darkest, dude. Like Wesley Snipes.
Before we get out of here, we want to, pay a little homage and bring back, an old segment, an old fan favorite, the Big DAWG of the week. And I feel like we got a really good one, that just so happens to be, we got the same Big DAWG this week. And we're going to share the reasons why. Our Big DAWG of the week is going to be Robbie Sorensen. Hope you're listening, brother.
He's listening, dude.
Reason being for myself, a couple weekends back here, it was down in Madison to cover the Oregon game. I was excited to see my boy Ryan Herrings. They were out at Vintage to have a couple beers before. And you know me, I'm not much of a drinker, but obviously I could be given to peer pressure. Beers. Yeah, a couple of beers. I was taking my medication. If you're worried about missing it, you won't.
You won't. Trust me, brother. You won't.
So I swing by Vintage, to have a couple of beers before the game. And, I've not been there. That was my first time in that bar. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know anybody that's going to be there outside of Ryan, who wasn't there. So, I went up to the bar and I did what I do. And I always order 2 beers right away.
Promo. That's a promo.
And, I'm kind of standing off to the side by myself, real awkward, waiting, hoping Ryan walks in the door.
Steven fucking Landsberg did.
Yeah, it was not a good scene.
Drawing dicks on napkins and shit.
So I'm sitting there just hoping Ryan's about to walk through the door, which, spoiler, he doesn't come for a while. Dude was pretty late to showing up to Vintage. But anyway, I got someone come walking up to me who I've not met before, and I had the pleasure of. And I'm holding two Miller High Lifes in my hand. Reason being that they didn't have my first choice beer, Coors Banquet, and they didn't have my second beer, Budweiser. And so I'm like, all right, what do y'all have in bottles then? Because we got to get to the bottom of this. They do have High Life. I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable with that. Roll Tide. So they gave me a couple of them. But this guy walks up to me after I've been standing by myself, in this crowded bar for a little while, and it's like one of those beers for Coop. And I was like, we take him back. I was like you know Coop? And he's like, he told us that he watched the show, and that meant a whole lot, man. Just one, bailing a brother out in an uncomfortable situation. I'm about as introverted as they come, so that was much appreciated.
And you texted me right away. You're like, bro, someone at the bar just asked me if I bought, I was holding the High Life for you.
that made my whole day.
That made my day.
And Robbie, man, just a good ass dude. We sat there and we talked ball for a long time. Deleted a couple of beers, and just appreciate you, Robbie. Want to give him a shout out, and Coop, I want to throw it over to you for your reasoning, and then got a plug, and we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, I told you before the show we were talking about this. I was like, Dylan, I'd probably take a fucking bullet for this guy. And you're like, all right, we'll save it for the show. So
I don't know why.
No, you don't. Obviously, listeners of the show know Marshawn passed in December 2nd. Shout out Marshawn. That's my other hand. Shout out Marshawn behind me right there. That's my dog. Dude, I was all His little coat and bandanas hanging up. He's got his own little shrine. But and Dylan knows, like, I live by myself. I'm a single guy. Marshawn was everything to me. That's my boy. So it was a really rough couple months, but I think it was like a week or two after he passed away. Ooh, excuse me. I put a post out on Twitter or whatever, and you, Ryan, Jay, Nate, all the boys, reached out to me, condolences, which was awesome. Really appreciated it. Going through a tough time like that. Robbie Sorensen reached out to your boy. Love seeing Marshawn on the show. Sorry for what happened and everything. He's like, and I shared with the Discord the poop bag story that you told. Do you remember that story, Dylan? That's an all-time. If you're an OG listener of the show, my poop bag story is an all-time fucking story.
That was an all-timer. I was in fucking tears.
Dude, I got shit all over my hand. Like, this was absolute disaster. But the fact that, like, he reached out to me, showed support from Marshawn, when the guy doesn't know me, I mean, he's just someone who sees me on YouTube. So that meant a lot, dude. And like I said, I was like, I'd take a fucking bullet for that guy. And after hearing, like, he's who you ran into at the bar, I was like, he already sounds like one of the fellas, dude.
Yeah, next time we're out grabbing a couple of beers somewhere, Robbie's money will be no good with us.
No, absolutely not, dude.
And if any of y'all are listening, if any of y'all made it to this point here, make sure you check out his pod, Badger Pack Sports. He just dropped an episode recently. I was able to listen to that.
Very good.
Yeah, when I was on the road the other day. Absolutely worth a listen. Coop, any closing thoughts?
Nah, man. Just, ready for senior day and ready for the Big Ten. Hopefully we get that double bye. Not looking great. But ready for the postseason tournaments and Wisconsin, baby.
It's March, man. Let's get it done.
Hell
Get
yeah.
you back here soon.